Hey there, children, and welcome back to another episode of Quincy Fairy Tales with Tekking101. Well, okay, just stay there and just shut up, okay? And just, sorry about that. Alright, so today's story is going to be, yes, the story of our Quincy savior. Now, this is a very popular, family-friendly story, so I think everyone's going to enjoy it, okay? It's a classic. Once upon a time, in a small forest, there was a castle. And the children that were all Quincy's lived in this castle with the family and king, and they played every day. Everything was happy in the forest. Therefore, it needed to be burned down by our Quincy savior, Yhwach. He rode in on his epic black stallion with his all-Nazi soldiers, and he burned the entire forest and the castle down with his death squads. The blood of the king and queen and the children ran the entire forest red, and all the animals began to lick it up in a massive feast of blood and gore, which of course led to blood orgy after horrible satanic blood orgy. Yhwach eventually claimed this land as his own, and on top of the skeletons and corpses of the children in the royal family, he rose up his own castle known as the Silburn, made out of ice, which reflected the sheer cold abyss that was his heart. And there is the story of our Quincy Lord and Savior, and that he reigned for 1,000 years and that everybody was happy. I love this book! Hey everybody, Tekking101 here, here to review Bleach chapter number 631, titled Friends. Yeah, I never watched the show, but honestly that's one of the more simpler and honestly more emotional chapter titles I think Kubo's done in a while, so yeah, sometimes simplicity's better, I suppose. So, of course, the chapter titled Friends, of course, starts off with Bazby and Hashwalt about to rip each other's freaking throats out! Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about, that's some manga right there! Bazby comes at Hashwalt using Burner Finger 2, swipes, Hashwalt dodges it, he jumps on the ceiling and then the walls in a really cool acrobatic thing, I'm not really sure how he did all that. Jeez, Hashwalt, why are you doing all that acrobatic shit? I'm Spider-Man, bitch! Really now? Maguire Spider-Man or Garfield Spider-Man? Maguire? Oh, wrong answer. So Bazby whips out his Reishi crossbow, aims it at Hashwalt, takes a shot, and we zoom right into Bazby's eyes, as we know that Kubo loves to do the flashback vision. That's it. We get sent back to Bazby and Hashwalt's childhood, actually. So back in this unknown location in time, we see a younger Hashwalt. He looks about maybe 10 years old around there, and he's hunting a small rabbit using a normal bow. He's not using the highly profile or anything. It's just a normal wooden bow that looks like it's handmade, and the arrows are handmade, so it's probably a long-ass time ago. Anyway, he misses the rabbit, it jumps away, but before it can get away, a Reishi arrow comes out of nowhere and stabs it, killing the rabbit. It's then revealed that the person that killed the rabbit was in fact a younger Bazby, who is cosplaying as Harold Valkyrie, I suppose, with his earlier form of his crossbow in his hand. So it's kind of funny that Kubo is giving him this outfit because it's like a Roman soldier, and of course it has the helmet, which has like the broom handle, the plumage that Romans used to wear, which by the way, they would wear that mostly, I think it was at the beginning to just designate rank, wasn't it? Like the captains would wear that kind of outfit with the hat with the plumage, and I think after a while it was just to show that kind of like intimidation, because the Romans were really into like, oh, well, you wear this hat and you will be endowed with the power of the lion or some shit like that. I don't know. Anyway, it's clearly indicative of Bazby's mohawk, which he will grow later in life and he doesn't have right now. So that's the reason Kubo gave him that outfit, which I find kind of funny that he did that. Oh, who the hell are you? I'm Bazby, and I'm gonna be king of the pirates. Okay, I mean, good for you, but you do know the ocean's like 1,000 miles from here, right? Not a lot of pirates around this area. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm Bazby, and I'm gonna be Hokage. Hokage? I'm sorry, I don't speak Korean. No! I'm going to be the best Quincy that ever lived. That was Japanese, by the way. I'm gonna be the best Quincy that ever lived. Oh, okay. Well, good for you. So we get the title page, and that's the explanation of how they first met and became friends, I suppose. So we get a little bit more back and forth between them, just expressing, Bazby's personality, and, Hashwalt is kind of really removed and just really shy and quiet, so not really much there. But it kicks up whenever Hashwalt points out, like, well, I'm sorry I couldn't, kill the rabbit. I'm not as skilled as you are because you've already unlocked your highly bogan, your holy bow, and I haven't been able to do that yet, so I guess I truly am a sorry noob, as the manga stream translation puts that. Yes, I'm sure that whatever time period they're in, they use that language. Totally. Yeah, it was lost to the annals of history. It was only recently discovered on the internet forums, and it's starting to pop up again. But really, the word noob has been around for millennia, seriously. Okay, so I have to point out this fact. Though, Hashwalt is just meeting Bazby for the first time, but this is clearly not the first time that Hashwalt has witnessed Quincy abilities, because he already knew what they were called. And the fact that he just met this kid out of nowhere, and he's like, oh, well, this kid can already activate his holy bow, and I can't do that. It's almost like it's a normal thing for, anybody to, know what a holy bow is, or all this Quincy terminology and everything. So wherever we are, whatever country we're in, whatever time period we're in, it's clearly obvious that Quincy's are like ruling in this land, that they certainly all live there if these two kids can meet each other. And it's like having a conversation about, oh, you can ride a bike? I'm not quite there yet. It's like, oh, you can activate your holy bow and your Quincy techniques? I haven't gotten there yet. So this is obviously a time period that is, at least further back than just a couple centuries ago when the Quincy's were all being slaughtered. This is a time period when they were apparently flourishing and they were everywhere, if they're, this familiar with their terminology at such a young age. And, two people that haven't even met each other could just have conversations about this stuff as if it's second nature. So I'm going to have my theories on where we are and exactly when we are, at the end of the chapter. I've, come up with a timeline trying to piece all this shit together, so hold off until for that. But yeah, I just want to, make one thing perfectly clear, that Quincy's are much more common in this time period than they certainly don't look like they're afraid of being hunted by the Shinigami or anything like that, certainly. So this is a long-ass time ago. So Bazby kind of tries to cheer Hashwalt up and says, oh, don't worry about not being able to activate your holy bow. The other kids aren't able to activate that either. I'm just a kind of a genius prodigy. That's why I'm able to do it. And he just kind of disassembles his bow. Once again, he says, like, oh, the other kids aren't able to activate it either, which means clearly there's, a bunch of Quincy's in this area. And he says, oh, don't your friends have the same thing? And Hashwalt just looks at him and he's just like, oh, well, I really don't know because I don't really have a lot of friends. Also, could you please stop calling me Jugo? I don't really like that nickname. Bazby brings up, oh, well, that's just, a shortened version of your normal name. What do your parents call you? Hashwalt states he doesn't have any parents and he just lives with his uncle. Well, what does your uncle call you then? It doesn't matter. Just leave it alone. But what's wrong with your uncle? Just, please, I don't like to talk about him. But anyway, Hashwalt just decides to turn around and leave, stating that he has to catch at least one rabbit before he goes home today. Bazby responds to this by just chucking the bunny directly in Hashwalt's head. Ow, that really hurt! What the hell did you do that for? Ow, that small furry animal you just chucked at my head really hurt, man! I could have died! Ow. Bazby tells him just to take the rabbit because it's not like he killed it for food anyway. He just did it to flaunt my skills. Okay, pause for a second, quick psychological note. Bazby, when he was around 10 years old, killed small animals for fun just because he could with his powers. Kind of an early signs of a serial killer, just bringing that up. Okay, moving on. Anyway, Bazby removes his cape and takes one of the buttons off and he throws it over at Hugo, stating that from now on, you're going to be one of my followers. And don't pay any mind to what adults tell you. We're going to become the strongest Quincy's out there, Hugo. And after that, Bazby just kind of leaves. We see Hashwalt there looking like he's about to cry, or just looking on in awe, I'm not exactly sure. We then get some sounds from the forest, and it's revealed that it's in fact Hashwalt's uncle who's coming to fetch him. I've been looking for you, Jugo. You can't be wandering in the forest by yourself. You can't survive without me, right, my adorable little Jugo? Oh, hello, Uncle Robin. Haha, yes, it is I. Now, did you catch that rabbit I asked you for? Yeah, it's right here. Ah, splendid! Now let us go to the poor and supply them with the rabbit. But Uncle Robin, I'm really hungry. Can we please just go eat the rabbit? Haha, silly child, I am Robin Hood! I take from the wealthy and give to the poor. Yes, but what are we supposed to eat? Doesn't that make us poor, by definition? I'm Robin Hood, boy! Now tally-ho! God, I hate my life. I wish somebody would just burn this damn forest down already. Oh my god! Someone just burned this damn forest down already! Oh, little Jugo, I'm dying. Yeah, that's such a tragedy, Uncle Robin. No, listen, I have to bequeath to you my last words of wisdom. Oh, this is gonna be great. You have to grow your hair out in a truly fabulous fashion, at least until it touches your lower back. Really? That's the last words of wisdom you have to give me? I didn't really accomplish much with my life, okay? This is the only advice I can give you. Okay, so after that first half of the flashback, we then come back to the present very briefly, where we see that Basby just shot a hole directly in the wall, I guess, with his reishi crossbow, and he's just kind of stating the kind of oddity that they changed the name of the Silburn. He's just like, Warwelt was this castle's name, huh? I thought it was called the Silburn. Like, what the fuck? Once again, why are we focusing on the damn name? It's just the name of the castle. Is it going to be relevant somewhere? Are we going to eventually find out down the line that Warwelt is actually, like, I don't know, the true name of Yhwach or something? Like, I don't know where we're going with this, but everyone's kind of focusing on the damn name. Hashwolf doesn't give him any explanation. He just states that he wants to take the fight outside because he can't afford the castle to sustain any more collateral damage. To which Basby says, well, screw that then! We're turning up the collateral damage! Burn our finger 3! So yeah, that's the same technique he used against Shinji and Momo back then, and if you remember correctly, Burner Finger 3 is basically summoning, like, plumes of lava outwards. So, yeah, he you know, basically Hashwolf's saying, I can't afford this castle to be any damaged, and, you know, Basby's like, oh, okay, so maximum damage! We're gonna just level this freaking thing. Oh, by the way, we don't know exactly, just minor side note, we don't know what's up with Giselle or Latato. I'm assuming since all the other Sternritters are gone and Basby's dealing with Hashwolf, I'm assuming they're gonna attempt to take on Yhwach themselves. And, yeah, they're gonna probably die, but we might get to see some cool fights from them maybe coming up after these. But yeah, now we cut over to Hashwolf, who's raising up his sword to fight against Basby. We zoom in on his eye, and we get a second dose of flashback vision! We now cut to a scene that we saw at the end of the last chapter, the one where Basby is, you know, looking over a burning forest and a castle. We find out that this scene takes place half a year, 6 months after Basby and Hashwolf's initial meeting, and that the burning scenery is actually Basby's family castle that's burning down. And the person that burned it down was none other than Yhwach. Your Majesty, what is it, Zydritz? Yes, why did you have to burn down that castle? It really didn't have anything we needed. Because, Zydritz, I wanted some cake and they didn't have any. That is worthy enough cause for me, your Kaiser, to lay waste to a castle. Your Majesty, look, I don't mean to have any disrespect, but you can't just keep going around burning down whole structures because they don't have the cake you want. Zydritz, let me ask you a question. What is your favorite eye? Huh? Oh, well, I would guess my left eye is the one that I use the most often whenever I'm sniping with my bow. Why do you ask, Your Majesty? So now we get a little bit more backstory on Yhwach. We have Basby as a child giving us some exposition on what Yhwach is to him and what he's currently doing in this time period. He states that Yhwach is a monster who reigned over the northern territories with supernatural abilities, not with the conventional bow and arrow. He said something about being over 200 years old and being the original Quincy. Hell, if I gave a damn about anything like that, though. Okay, so this is a big chunk of information we get about Yhwach's backstory that we haven't gotten since probably chapter 565 when we first found out you know, the first, you know, chunk of information about him. Okay, so here's first theory. This is taking place over 1,000 years ago. It has to. Basby and Hashwolf, I mean, Hashwolf in particular, that's the big thing. Hasn't even met Yhwach yet. And also the fact that we're going to see Zydritz. And Zydritz was one of the guys that actually Yamamoto resurrected to fight against Yhwach. So therefore, Yamamoto killed Zydritz in the conflict 1,000 years ago. So it's very clear that this time frame takes place back then. And at this point, though, over 1,000 years in the past, Yhwach is stating that he's already 200 years old. So it obviously doesn't make any sense to put it, you know, just a couple hundred years ago, because Yhwach has been sealed away for the past 1,000 years, not being able to do anything. So this has to take place at least that far back. Something else interesting here is that he says that Yhwach is in command of the northern territories. I don't know if Kubo would have enough foresight to look into this, but if you take a look at this map of Europe 1,000 years ago, roughly, you see that it doesn't really look exactly like we, you know, see it now. And the damn Romans have to take over everything, of course. But anyway, we look at this one portion here, and I don't know how accurate this is. I'm sure somebody that knows a little bit more about this kind of history might know. But it says right here that this is the northern German territories. So I don't know if that's what he means by that. And also, one last thing I gotta bring up here. Yhwach is riding a horse. And the reason I need to point that out is just, I just find it funny when I think of how Yhwach is currently in the story in the present, where he's God and he has all these powers and he has Yamamoto's Flame Bankai, the Almighty, absorb the Soul King, absorb the Mimi Hage, all these dominion over his Quincy's, and here he is riding a horse like a normal guy. I want to know where that horse is. I want to know the backstory between, you know, Yhwach and that black stallion. That must have been the most epic war horse ever. You know, I wouldn't even be surprised. Final battle with Ichigo, Yhwach summons up from the flame his ultimate warhorse and he rides on it into combat. That shit is awesome. I mean, hey, imagine, like, to put this in perspective, imagine if, you know, after Aizen arrived in Huecamundo, he's, like, running around on a camel or some shit. It would just be, like, weird. So after Yhwach burns down Basby's home, and I'm assuming he also, like, killed his family, because Basby is rightfully pissed here, we see him standing with Jugo in the background, stating that, "We're gonna kill Yhwach, Jugo." Jugo asks if he wants Basby to come along with him, to which Basby responds that Yhwach also burned down the entire forest, so, you know, if you want to live with your uncle in that ruin, go ahead, but I gotta go take this guy down. Jugo brings up that his uncle actually died in the fire in the process. Oh, damn, man, I didn't know that. I guess I feel sorry for your loss. Well, somebody has to be, I suppose. Hey, so I gotta give them credit. They're doing some, like, Arya Stark Game of Thrones shit. They're not coming at, like, oh, we just gotta attack Yhwach and, you know, just, you know, kill him and that's it. Everything's solved. You know, they come up with the idea, like, look, we gotta train really hard, and so for the next 5 years, they try to get stronger, and they're like, we're gonna, you know, infiltrate his army, and we're gonna try to assassinate him from the inside. So really clever move. I like that. And this is the point where they basically become, like, blood brothers, and they start training together, and that's the reason why, you know, Basby and the present is so pissed off at Hashwalth for kind of, like, abandoning him from all the history that they've been through. I mean, you have to also question, like, what happened at some point to let, you know, Yhwach give, you know, Hashwalth the ultimate trust and bequeath his powers to him at night. So clearly at some point, you know, Hashwalth did achieve, you know, at least one option, you know, at least a couple of options to kill Yhwach. You know, so I don't know where this is going exactly, you know, if Hashwalth just had a massive change of heart and that's why Basby's pissed off, or if Hashwalth is still dedicated to the mission, he's just dedicated to it so much he's just going to disregard Basby and just focus on the mission himself of killing Yhwach, and that's where we're at today. But there's still so many, you know, gaps in this history, I really couldn't tell you. So before they knew it, 5 years have already passed. So now we cut to Yhwach and Zydritz, who I guess is like his advisor, maybe second in command or whatever. They're in, I guess, a castle that they've conquered, and they're basically just talking about their strategies for war. Yhwach brings up that he wants to create a new vanguard unit, to which Zydritz is a little confused by that. He states that there's nowhere left in the kingdom to conquer. He also refers to the kingdom as the Leaked Reich, which is the kingdom of light. So I guess that's, you know, whatever country, whatever kingdom that Yhwach's in and he conquered, he renamed it that. So yeah, Yhwach has a thing for the names and the Reichs, you know, whatever. Anyway, yeah, he states that there's no reason to form a new vanguard unit because they pretty much rule everything for this country. Yhwach states that it isn't for this country. The next place that I shall be conquering is indeed the Soul Society. Okay, I just gotta question the tactical logic here. I mean, let's think about this. Yhwach just conquers an entire kingdom or an entire country, you know, wherever they are in the world in Europe, I have no idea. And now he's just like, now we're gonna conquer an entire separate parallel dimension to ours. You know, I mean, this is just like if, like, at the height of its empire, you know, the Romans, you know, Julius Caesar comes out and he's just like, well, we've conquered pretty much all of Europe. Now what shall we conquer? And Brutus is like, oh, well, we could try to conquer the other nations of the world, sail across the sea, see what's over there. Nah, fuck that, Brutus. We're taking over the moon. Oh, okay, yeah, that surely makes sense. Hey, Caesar, by the way, what are you doing on the 15th at around 3 o'clock? Oh, nothing. I felt like I was just going to go for a stroll around the Empire at exactly 3 o'clock on the 15th. Why do you ask? Oh, no reason. Just wondering what's up. But yeah, at any rate, Zydritz is a little surprised by this statement that they're going to try to take on the Soul Society en masse, and he states that we can't achieve that, which means that we need a new power. This vanguard shall be known as the Sternritter, and we have Yhwach turn around to the last page of the chapter, and we see he looks considerably younger than he does now, or maybe it just is that his mustache is a little bit more peach fuzz. His mustache, I actually looked back, it's actually even at a lesser stage than it was when we first met him. When we first met Yhwach back in chapter 484, his mustache at least had a little bit more, hair around the area here, but now it just looks completely like peach fuzz. So, yeah, this is probably the earliest state we've ever seen Yhwach, aside from, like, his teenage years and when he was a baby. And now the caption at the end of the chapter states that the origin of the Sternritter will now be revealed. So I'm really pumped for this. We finally get the flashback arc. I mean, this is at a point that I really didn't, figure it was going to be at. I thought if we were going to have a flashback arc at any point in the last, dozen or so chapters, it would be, after, Yhwach stabs the Soul King, absorbs his power, the Seirete begins shaking. I mean, hey, Kubo, if you're going to do a flashback arc to take our minds off that for, 5 or 6 weeks, that would have been the time to do it because, oh man, the Seirete's crumbling, what are we going to do? Well, you have to wait 6 weeks to find out. But in the meantime, we, look into the turn back the pendulum too for the Sternritters. So, I'm serious. We might get that next chapter, a whole flashback arc where maybe we just see Yhwach, going around recruiting the Sternritters. Now, here's the things I have to question, all right, in terms of the timeline. All right, so I'm going to throw this up. This is from all the pieces of the puzzle that I could figure. I'm probably wrong on a couple things on this. You probably have your own opinions. I'd like to hear them in the comments below, but this is my basic structure of the timeline as it currently exists. All right, here we go. All right, so the first thing on this list is Yhwach is born. So far, to my knowledge, that is like the earliest point in this series that we're aware of, you know, because, we had the thing with Yamamoto where he was talking about what happened 1,000 years ago, but obviously Yhwach being born had to take place a couple hundred years before that. So yeah, Yhwach is born. That's the earliest point so far in the series. And then we have the events, I guess, of 200 years before the flashback in this chapter when, Yhwach began conquering and began ruling over all the Quincy's. So Yhwach begins his conquest. All right, now we get to the flashback in this chapter. We get to, a younger Jugram and a younger Basby meeting each other, and then Yhwach's conquest burning down Basby and Ugram's homes. Basby and Ugram swear vengeance against Yhwach. Okay, so then 5 years pass, and then we get to the point where Yhwach, announces that he has to create the Sternritter. And now we get to the point that was 1,000 years ago, the point where Yhwach, takes his Sternritters and invades the Seirete for the first time. And then that's when Yamamoto and the original Gotei show up, and they just kick their asses. They burn all the Quincy's. Maybe this is where... Crazy idea I just thought of. Maybe this is where the Quincy's and the Shinigami first meet each other. This is where the Shinigami first, meet the Quincy's, because apparently in this chapter they don't even reference the Shinigami at all, or Hollows, or anything for that matter. I mean, that still doesn't mean that they can't know of their existences. They just didn't mention them in this chapter, but still, I mean, the Quincy's don't, the Shinigami don't know the Quincy's existence until they attack them, and then Yamamoto uses his Bankai, deals damage to Yhwach, doesn't kill him, but whatever events of that battle took place, the Quincy's are defeated, and Yhwach ends up being sealed away for 1,000 years. And then after those 1,000 years pass, then we pick up with the original series as we currently are right now. So, yeah, that's my opinion on the timeline of, where we are right now and how this stuff takes into place. So, a couple extra questions that I have is that the age of these characters. I always assume that Basby and maybe, I was a little bit on the fence about Hashwalth, because Hashwalth is so closely related to Yhwach, and Yhwach is clearly, like, somewhat immortal, so I wasn't gonna, include Hashwalth. But in terms of, like, Basby and the other Sternritters at large, I assume they were just like normal humans that were born, at the time period of the series. Like what I mean is they don't look older than they really are. Like Basby looked to be like in his like late teens, early 20s. So he really is in his late teens, early 20s, as if being born in like the 1980s. I didn't think, okay, now I'm thinking of Basby in the 1980s, like listening to like heavy metal and shit. I don't know. Anyway, so now, I mean, he would fit in with the Mohawk. I'm just saying. All right, but no, seriously, according to this chapter, the Sternritters are easily over 1,000 years old, including Basby, because he doesn't look like much older, like in his teens or 20s. So maybe whenever Yhwach gets defeated, maybe Basby and Hashwalth and the other Sternritters, maybe figured out some way to make themselves, like suspended animation. Because here's the thing: whenever we see, what's it called, Asnot's backstory. We see Asnot's backstory. He's clearly in a hospital. He's clearly hooked up to, like, oxygen equipment. So not all the Sternritters that Yhwach is going to gather 1,000 years ago at this time are going to be the same Sternritters as we know currently in the story. I mean, it would make more sense that some Sternritters were gathered back then. Maybe a bunch of them died whenever Yhwach first invaded the Soul Society. Some of them survived, like Basby and Hashwalth. And then Yhwach gets sealed. Then 1,000 years ago, he wakes the fuck back up, and then he starts gathering all the Sternritters that are like all the open spaces yet. This is when he picks up Asnot. This is when he picks up, Lloyd and Royd. But Basby and, Hashwalth were the original members of the Sternritter are still part of it. So that's my best way to figure it out. So the Sternritters that we might learn about in the upcoming chapter may not be, in fact, the Sternritters that we know and love now. Maybe we'll get Shaz Domino. Maybe he'll pop up and we'll finally get an explanation for that dude. Maybe Robert Acatron. Robert Acatron most certainly, because Robert Acatron even said that, like, you haven't been in your Majesty's service for as long as I've had. So that would imply that, like maybe Latato and Giselle and Meninas and all the Valley girls were maybe picked up, in current time, and Robert Acatron is from the previous generation, all right? So there's 2 generations of Sternritters now. And I have to kind of... I mean, I hope that's not the case, because if that's the case, then I gotta basically, flip this freaking thing around and then do an entire different generation of Sternritters, with maybe a few of them carrying over to the second one. But anyway, I like this chapter. Really good exposition. I'm kind of hyped for next chapter. I'm really hyped. I really want to see, even if it's just a chapter where, where Yhwach is just going around, hey, you're a Sternritter now, and you'll be a Sternritter, and you're a Sternritter. I would be cool with that. I really would be. Especially since it really is kind of, very possible now we may get a backstory for Robert Akutron. I was kind of joking about that, but considering what Robert said, that he was in Legion with Yhwach for so long, and now he's making the Stern, I'm like, hey, we might, even if it's just like a panel or two where we see a younger Robert being enlisted. I just feel sorry for the dude. He shows up and we don't get a name for like 100 chapters, and then when he finally does get a name, he gets fucking nuked like 3 pages later. I mean, what the actual fuck? But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. This will be Tekking101 signing out. Please leave your comments on what you believe, what's going on with Yhwach and the timeline and shit like that below. Previous generations of Sternritter, maybe they're the same generation, I don't know. Why the hell does Basby look so young? Stuff like that. Quincy Mumbo Jumbo, have a great day. Remember to subscribe to my channel. Signing out.